not fixing people, but keeping them on the right path. You mentioned you're a recovering narcissist.
I did, yes.
What does that really mean?
So
how did you discover that, first of all?
Well, it's sort of like being a recovering alcoholic. You never get over being an alcoholic. You're just constantly recovering. Narcissism is a very long spectrum. And we have to first acknowledge this, that people are now using the word narcissist to kind of apply to anybody that thinks about themselves. Let's throw that out because it doesn't work. Narcissism is a long spectrum, and it means self-care, self-focus. So at one end of the healthy spectrum, when you take good care of your body, you're self-focused for the benefit of your body and your life. That's not harming anyone. You're being good to yourself. All the way at the other end of the spectrum is toxic narcissism or narcissistic personality disorder. That's a psychological disease that some people have, that where they are only self-focused. They see other people as simply tools to use to aggrandize themselves, and that's dangerous. Now, that's a very long distance from one to the other. We're all somewhere on that spectrum, and women tend to be more communal, caring, and men tend to be more individualistic and self-thinking, self-caring. Taking care of self first. And so you have to find yourself on that spectrum. Okay, well, how much do I think about myself each day versus how much do I think about other people each day? You could find that balance. Each individual could ask that question, find their own place, and say, okay, I'm there on the spectrum. Where do I want to be? Well, I want to be in the middle. I want to think about myself and the other person, not myself or the other person. Now, interestingly, codependency is a similar long spectrum from, I think about the other person every once in a while to I only think about the other person's needs and make sure they're taken care of. And narcissists and codependents often get together because they both agree on who's the most important person. The narcissist says I am, and the codependent says you are. So when I never thought of myself as a narcissist. I always thought of myself as someone who takes care of himself, and also I'm good in relationship, right? I was together with very powerful women. We had good relationships, but if I decided to do something, I'd go do it. I wouldn't really consider what my partner had to say about it. And one of my partners handed me an article one day that was about narcissism, and I read it and I went, oh my God, that's me. It was quite a shock. And that began my research, because whenever I get interested in something, I start researching it. So I was reading books and articles on narcissism, trying to understand it. And I saw that most of my behavior, even in relationship, was oriented toward my own decisions, my own ideas, what I wanted and needed. And the other person really came second. But I cared about the other person. I cared if I hurt her, for example. I would feel bad. I'd apologize. I'd try to fix it. But I wasn't thinking about their needs all the time. So I began a program of basically self-improvement around this idea that I need to be caring about the other person at least as much as I care about myself. And that is my recovery path. So really considering the other person. So my relationship now is with the woman who's a specialist in attachment theory, psychology, and narcissistic behavior. So she's helped me a lot in waking me up to my own narcissistic tendencies. I'm taking off for the weekend. What about me? She would ask. Yeah. And I would think, oh, I forgot to think about you. So let me rethink that. Let me come back and rethink the conversation, rethink my plans. What is your need this weekend? So that's what the recovery process is. It's really orienting yourself toward the relationship rather than toward yourself.
And do you feel that your clear belief system works well with the recovery process of narcissism as well?
Absolutely, because we can dive into the ego in all of its glory and find the programming, the original programming that began the pattern, whatever pattern is showing up. So narcissism as a pattern comes partly from the culture. Just go get it yourself, and you're the most, you need to be a winner, and no pain, no gain, and just go out and be successful. That's the most important thing. That part of the masculine programming tends to make us into narcissists. And the narcissists are celebrated. As I said, Elon Musk, the ultimate narcissist, Donald Trump, the ultimate narcissist. These are people who are celebrated in our culture because narcissists can be very successful because they don't care about anybody else except their own success. So we're fighting against a culture that celebrates narcissism to come back into balance.
But then I've heard that there are also these covert narcissists that are neither ambitious nor seem to care too much about themselves, but they still, make their will through or push their will through using manipulative, they're all manipulative, but like covert ways to get what they want.
Sure. Maybe, gaslighting exactly. Is one of those ways, manipulation and control. There's lots of ways that a narcissist can make the other person seem like they're crazy. When in fact they're actually sane and the narcissist is being a narcissist. So it's tricky. And that's why I wrote the book, The Narcissism Primer, for men and for women.
To show it.
To understand these core principles. You can see the illustration there. You can see the narcissist being illustrated, me, and then sort of everybody whirling around me. Stuff
about me, stuff I hate, others, my stuff.
Exactly.
Nowhere. Nice. So this is this one, is this where people can get the book from? ConfusedaboutLove.com?
Yes. Narcissism.primer.
And so what does the book help you do? To be aware of and how to deal with narcissism, or how to deal with narcissists?
Oh, it was written for men again, and it's for men to recognize their own narcissism. Women tend to call men narcissists, and for good reason. But my recommendation is that if you're a woman that you want your man to read this, print it out, leave it somewhere, and don't talk to him about it. Let him find it, and he'll say, "What's this?" You go, "Oh, it was just something that showed up," and walk away. Don't talk about him. Don't tell him he needs to read this, because now you are telling him he's a narcissist and you're trying to fix him, and he will not like it. So let him suffer it for himself.
That's a very good tip. So where is the movement, the tribe of men at the moment? What is the size? What is the status? What are your activities?
There are some very large organizations, for example, the Mankind Project, that have initiation processes for men. And initiation is a really important aspect of the men's movement. In tribal times, boys were taken out of their mother's home or tent or teepee and taken into the woods, and something horrible would happen to them in order to turn them into a man. In some cultures, the men would put on masks and costumes and show up at the door, and the mother who was in on the joke would say, "No, don't take my little boy. He's my little boy. He's my son. You can't take him." They were, "We are here to take your boy and turn him into a man." And they would take him out. The boy was incredibly frightened. And then he would be marched into the woods and sat down on a red anthill or something. He would be put through an initiation process. And if he survived, and most did, but not all, then he would then be initiated into manhood. Say, "Okay, you're now a man. Now you live with the men. You don't live with your mommy anymore. You are a man now. You're part of the men's tribe, and you are part of the society, and you will do what we do. You will be a scout at the front lines of our territory, or you will be a hunter, or you will participate in men's activities." And so that was an important transition from boy to man. But along the lines of our cultural history, that got lost. That initiation process got lost. And it's really important. So today we have 30-year-old boys, who are still living with their mother and playing video games in the basement, which means it's an uninitiated man, basically. And so all of these men's organizations have come up with their own initiation processes. The Mankind Project is one of my favorites. They've initiated tens of thousands of men around the world. And then they have men's groups that are formed after the initiation process so that the men can continue their inner development. There's another organization called Everyman, spelled Evryman, not Every, but Evry. And they're teaching men how to feel, how to find their bodies and to feel their emotions and identify their emotions. That's a very important initiation for boys who have been told not to feel. If you cry on the football field, you're shamed. If you cry at all, you're shamed. So you have to stuff the emotions and you have to, put on a mask and pretend you're someone else. There's many other organizations out there, but those are just some of the larger organizations. The Tribe of Men is a smaller organization that I helped found about 25 years ago. And we have about 100 men around, mostly in the Bay Area, around San Francisco, but also we've opened it up to men everywhere. And that's tribeofmen.com if people want to check that out. And it was formed by 4 of us who had all done a lot of inner work. And so we made it based on how to really go deep inside yourself and bring out the truth, bring out your authenticity, clear the stuff that's in the way. So it's very much a process-oriented group. There's some groups that do, projects, go build houses for people. There's some that just talk about what's happening. So you have to find your way into the right group if you're looking for one, because there's many different kinds of men's groups. But there's plenty of them out there. You could just put men's groups in Google and find hundreds of them.
Mm-hmm. And now, talking about initiation got me thinking about the compulsory army service. I don't know if you've ever had this in the US, but in Europe, it is still present in some countries. In most countries, it was abolished, but that was when they said, now you're becoming a man, because that's when you start experiencing hardship. But I'm also thinking whether this really constitutes a man. Do they really need to go through hardship, and why men do but women don't? Is this still
First of all, I think women have their own hardship to go through, even with menstruation and childbearing. That's enough for any lifetime. That's enough. And they have to also deal with men, which is also an initiation of itself. I don't know what it is about boys. I've been part of an organization called the Young Men's Ultimate Weekend, which is an initiation process for boys to turn them into young men. There's really 3 phases. There's the boy stage, where you're doing what your parents tell you. There's the young man stage, where you're either rebelling against mom and dad, or you're joining a gang to try to become a man. And then there's men. So we were initiating boys into young men and giving them some standards of behavior, giving them an understanding of ethics and morals and how to be an upright person. Part of that program is what we call the worst day of your life. And we'd sit in circle around the fire and talk. Everybody has a worst day of their life. And for some, it's seeing their best friend shot and killed on the streets. For others, it's the parents getting divorced or a parent dying, and giving boys a chance to really go down deep and share the most horrible parts of their life. And then we do a process in which they push against men and get out all their buried emotions. It's very dramatic. And it's really a release of all the stuff they've had to stuff down their whole lives. So that's an example of not a difficult initiation in terms of physically, but emotionally. And boys need to be supported by men to really get all that crap out of them, because they've been pushing stuff down for decades.
Mm-hmm. And how does it relate to women, what you're discovering about men and in your particular organization, the Tribe of Men? In the inner introspective work, what have you discovered about the relationship men, women, and what are you talking about? I'm just curious.
Yeah. Well, one of the topics that is brought up a lot is the relationship I'm in, the relationship with my children, the relationship with my spouse, the relationship with my parents. So we are relational animals. We are troop animals, basically. You know, if a monkey gets pushed out of the troop, they're dead meat. They'll be picked off by the nearest predator. So we have instinctually a need for community, a need for tribe or troop, right? And we are born into our first troop, which is our family. And in order to belong, we become like the others, because if you want to belong to a group, you have to become like those other people, take on their beliefs, take on their mannerisms, take on their behaviors. And so this is another very powerful instinct, is to belong. And children will take on the beliefs of their parents so they can be aligned with them. Because if they believed something else or they behaved a different way, they could be thrown out to the wolves. So this belonging instinct has us tend to become like the people we hang out with. And so depending on whether you get together with the cool kids or the smart kids or the bad kids, the rebellious kids or the weird kids, like we find our place in the social order. And then we tend to get stuck there. And because we've taken on those behaviors and beliefs, and then we become like that, and that becomes our personality. Well, what we're doing in our tribe and in many tribes is to really get rid of that old programming and find the true self. And when you're in the true self and you're in relationship with someone who's in their true self, then you can have a real relationship. You're both authentic. You're both honest. You can talk about anything that comes up and deal with it, because there are problems in every relationship. There is no perfect relationship, but at least you have tools to deal with it. And then you can get through anything together.
How can people become members of your organization, the Tribe of Men?
Well, they can go to tribeofmen.com and learn about it, learn what our principles are. And if they're aligned with the principles, we have drop-in groups where you can come and meet some of the other people. And every men's group has that format. So if you are a man and you want a men's group, look up men's groups, look up the Mankind Project, Tribe of Men, Every Man, and just find the one that's right for you. It's the same as looking for a therapist. You have to shop around until you find the right one.
Mm-hmm. Is this an online group, or do you meet in the Bay Area?
Now, we started out in-person groups, and then we moved online during the pandemic, and some groups are mixed now. There's some online, some in person, and some half and half. Yeah.
Very, very cool. You also have an upcoming, in September, I checked your website last time, a coaching program for existing coaches who want to learn your clear belief system.
Yes, I do. It's called the Clear Beliefs Coach Training. And I've trained over 600 people around the world in 45 countries on this methodology for going very deep into the psyche and clearing out those old beliefs, clearing out the programs that were badly programmed in childhood. We have level 1 trainings about every other month. And then we have a level 2 and a level 3 program. In total, it's about 20 weeks of training. It's accredited by the International Coaching Federation and also the Association for Coaching. So it's an accredited training program for coaches, therapists, healers, and consultants who want to go deep with their clients. And we call it therapeutic coaching because it's not therapy and it's beyond coaching. It's meta coaching. It's coaching at a very deep and profound level. So the way people can find out about that is clearbeliefs.com.
Mm-hmm. Lion, what's the best thing about the men's tribe that you've experienced? About starting it and being a part of it, running it?
Well, it's such a rich area. It's hard to fish out the best thing, because the best thing is probably the deep relationships that you develop with other men, that are not a sexual romantic relationship. They are deep friendships, friendships that go beyond just being friends. It's being a partner in inner development. And we are completely honest with each other. We tell the truth to each other. If someone's being false, we call them on it. So it's a place to find your authentic self and to be your best self. And that's what's best about any men's group, in particular the Tribe of Men, because that's mine.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for enlightening us on the Tribe of Men movement and on the movements of men in general. Your book is again called Menlightenment.
Yes, Menlightenment, right.
Menlightenment, yes.
Yes.
I had it somewhere here, but yeah, Menlightenment. If people Google it, they'll be able to find it. Thank you so much for this conversation. It was a pleasure. I was going to say as always, but we've only talked twice, but it's a pleasure.
Well, so far it's every time. So
yes.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. It's a true delight to be with you.
Thank you. Likewise.